Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad we are meeting again in chapter 18, Organization of Tissues. I hope we are meeting after a long break, maybe 1 week of break. Just recall what we have learned in previous classes. So, in the previous class, we learned about tissues. First, we learned about cell. What is cell? Then we learned about tissues. We also learned about organization. Group of cell forming tissues, group of tissues form organs, organ forming organ system, and the whole all organ systems, they form a full living organism. In that I said last period that in this lesson we are going to learn only in tissue level. Maybe in higher classes we may be learning about other, in organ system level or organ level. But this this lesson, we are going to learn about only tissue level, that is organization of tissues. So in this, I said in previous class that we are going to learn plant tissues and animal tissues. And under plant tissues, we have learned, last class we have learned meristematic tissues. That is, plant tissues can be classified into two types as temporary tissues, which are called as meristematic tissues, and permanent tissues, which includes simple and complex tissues. So this temporary tissues, the meaning of this temporary tissue is these tissues, they mature into a permanent tissue. And these are the growing tissues. They are tender cells which are involved in cell division and cell growth. These cells, these temporary cells, are these meristematic cells which later become a permanent tissue, either collenchyma or parenchyma or sclerenchyma or xylem or phloem, which you call it as permanent tissues. So that is the specialty of meristematic tissues. In animals we have stem cells, like how you have in plants meristematic tissues. In animals we have stem cells. The nature of these stem cells or meristematic tissues is termed as totipotency or pluripotency. That is, the ability of that cell to become a permanent matured cell. That is called as totipotency or pluripotency. So in meristem, we learned last class that there are three types of meristem. One, apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary meristem. That is, the meristem that is found in both the ends of a plant, apical ends, that is in the root end and in the shoot end. Those are called as apical end, so it is called as apical meristem. These meristems are needed or necessary or important or significant for the height of a plant, which helps in the growth of height of the plant. Then the second one is lateral meristem, which are found on the sides of the shoot system or root system, and that involves in the girth of the plant. The growth of the width is called as girth, G-I-R-T-H. So thereby a plant is stouter, it is because of lateral meristem. And third, intercalary meristem, which is involved or which is needed or necessary or important for the growth of the internode, and so they are called as intercalary meristem. So I hope you know, last period I said we have this node and internodes, which is very well found in sugar canes. You come across many ring-like structures from which many roots arises, and those ring-shaped structures found in sugarcane are called as node, and the gap between the two nodes are called as internodes. In other plants we come across arisal of leaf, arisal of stem or branches. That region, the region where or the site from which the leaf or a branch arises is called as node, and the gap between the two nodes is called as internode. So this intercalary meristem is responsible for the internodal elongation of the shoot system. So like that we come across growth in plants. by way of three meristem: apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary meristem. So today we are going to learn about permanent tissues. So last period we learned about temporary tissues. Today we are going to learn about permanent tissues. That too, I think we will not have time for completing we cannot go to complex tissues. So let me finish today with the simple tissues. Well, we'll enter into today's class about organization of tissues. As I said in the intro, we are learning about plant tissues now, organization of plant tissues. In that we have already completed meristematic tissues, which are otherwise called as temporary tissues, and now we are going to learn about permanent tissues. So this permanent tissues, where it's tissues, as we discussed before, tissues are none other than a collection of cells, and in these kind of tissues the growth has stopped either completely or for the time being. So that is the main difference between a meristematic tissue and a permanent tissue. In meristematic tissue, where you come across growth, but here that is, when that meristematic tissue after growth it becomes mature, the cells become mature, and at that moment the growth stops. That is permanent tissues. So don't think temporary tissues are different from permanent tissues. Only temporary tissues in the lateral stages it becomes permanent tissues. So that is the definition of permanent tissues, where the growth has stopped either completely. So you come across complete stop of the growth, or sometimes it is time being, because the growth at times, that is this permanent tissue, sometimes they become meristematic tissue partially or wholly. So when growth is required, maybe when there is a injury in the plant, in that case a permanent tissue may, so this is not always, at times, which means occasionally it may become a meristematic tissue partially or wholly. So which means you come across growth there. So you will learn more about this in next year 10th standard. Then with regard to this permanent tissues, these permanent tissues are classified into two types, as simple tissues and complex tissues. So this is what we are going to learn in today's class. The permanent tissues are classified into simple tissues and complex tissues. As it is in the name, this simple tissues, where you come across homogeneous tissues. Simple tissues are homogeneous tissues composed mainly of structurally and functionally similar cells. But it is not so in complex tissues. Again, as I said in the introduction, this is the main difference between simple and complex. So don't confuse among yourself. That is temporary, permanent. I hope now you are aware of temporary and permanent. Now in permanent tissues we have two types of tissues. One is simple and other is complex. So homogeneous, that is the tissues are of same types. There is no difference. There is no different types. There is no types. So that kind you call it as homogeneous tissues, and it is composed mainly of structurally and functionally similar cells. Actually, this is the definition of tissues. So tissues you come across, in most of the cases it is structurally and functionally similar, not different. So we have three types of simple tissues: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. One, homogeneous tissues, which is mainly of structurally and functionally similar cells, and we have three types of simple tissues: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. With regard to complex tissues, first of all, they are made of more than one type of cell. That is the difference between simple and complex. Simple, in one word, homogeneous in nature. but complex where you come across more than one type of cells which work together as a unit. So what is that more than one type of cell? For example, in complex tissues where you come across it is made up of parenchyma and sclerenchyma cells. Okay, so you have more than one type. So that's why they are called as complex tissues, which are none other than xylem and phloem. Okay, so here cholenchymatous cells are absent. In complex tissues, cholenchymatous cells are absent. So actually complex tissues consist of parenchyma and sclerenchyma. Now let's start with the simple tissues. The first type is parenchyma. So these parenchymatous cells, they are simple permanent tissues composed of living cells. That is, they are made up of living cells. The shape of these cells is thin walled, oval, rounded or polygonal. So the wall is thin. The shape may be oval, round or polygonal in shape. They have well developed spaces among them. So that makes the difference between parenchyma and cholenchyma. So in parenchyma you have a well developed space. You call it as intercellular space. Whereas in cholenchyma you don't have intercellular space. That is the main difference between parenchyma and cholenchyma. If a parenchyma, as you look in the right hand side, so the whole background is parenchyma cells. On the top right hand side where you come across more air spaces in between the cells, in that case it is called as aerenchyma. Aerenchyma. Similarly, on the right bottom you come across certain cells having chloroplast, and so they are greenish in color. And if a parenchyma cells have chloroplast in them, and those cells are called as chlorenchyma. Again I repeat, if they have more air space, they are called as aerenchyma. If they have a chloroplast inside them, then they are called as chlorenchyma. So that makes the main functions of the parenchyma. So now let us learn one by one. First, they store water. Parenchyma cells, they involve in storing water, especially in succulent and xerophytes. So you know what is done by xerophytes. Xerophytes are plants that live in dry areas or deserts. Since the stem, I hope you know, in xerophytes, the plant body, the leaves are absent. So second, since there is lack of water, the stem will be stouter. They involve in storing water. So hence these xerophytes are also called as succulent plants, or I could say the plants that involve in storing water, they have fleshy shoot system, and these plants are called as succulent plants. If they are found in deserts, they are called as xerophytes. So in both these cases you come across parenchymatous cells involved in the storing of water. That is the first function of parenchyma. Second, it is also involved in storing food, or in absorption, or in buoyancy, or secretion. That is, with regard to previous slide, we learned that it may contain air, then it is called as aerenchyma. If it has chloroplast, it is called as chlorenchyma. So if it has a chloroplast, surely it is going to do photosynthesis, and that is the first point. It stores food. So thereby the food prepared is stored in parenchyma. So this means it has many functions. Okay, some parenchyma, they are involved in absorption of nutrients, and some especially aerenchyma cells, they are involved in buoyancy. That is, buoyancy is in the sense if they are found in water. So especially this aerenchyma is found in aquatic plants. So in aquatic plants, they float in water. They should float in water. Only some aquatic plants are submerged type, and many aquatic plants are floating types. So in that case, the buoyancy, that is the ability to float, which is given by the aerenchyma, which is none other than parenchyma, Apart from that, it also involved in various secretion of various chemicals in the tissues. In case of potato, the food reserve that is stored is in the form of starch. Starch is a complicated sugar, and in case of apple, it is in the form of sugar, that is simple sugar, that is monosaccharides or disaccharides. So sugar classified into three types: monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. If it is made up of very simple sugar like glucose C6H12O6, then it is called as monosaccharide. If there are two monosaccharides, then it is called as disaccharides. But in case of starch, which is a polysaccharide, which is none other than a long chain of many glucose molecules or long chain of any monosaccharides. So if there are many number of monosaccharides connected together, they are called as polysaccharides. Only two connected, then it is called as disaccharide, and only one solo singly present, then it is called as monosaccharide. Glucose, okay, so glucose is a good and best example of monosaccharide. So in potato, it is in the form of starch, polysaccharide. In apple, it is in the form of mono or disaccharides. The next topic or the next tissue is colongyma. So we are now learning simple tissues. Just now we completed parenchyma. Our next simple tissue is colongyma. So colongyma is a living tissue. So why I say that this, because later you are going to learn about dead tissue. Okay, so hence we are learning here living tissue. So colongyma is living tissue. It is elongated with unevenly thickened walls. The walls are unevenly thickened. So you come across ups and downs. Okay, in one region you find thicker, other region you will find thinner, again more thick. So like that it is unevenly thickened, not evenly thick. It may be rectangular in shape, oblique, or tapering end. That is, if a structure is not parallel, so that is, I would say, if a structure is neither parallel nor perpendicular. I hope you know what is meant by parallel and perpendicular. So which means improperly placed. So that you call it as oblique. Okay. So if you look into this picture, you can find it is not exactly parallel nor it is perpendicular. So this nature you call it as oblique. Okay. And it may have tapering ends. Okay. Then it has a persistent protoplast. Since we say living tissue, all living tissue have persistent, that is a permanent protoplast. What is a protoplast? The structure that is found inside cell wall is called protoplast. That is, which includes cytoplasm and nucleus. Okay, so that is, if it is plant cell, inside cell wall. If it is an animal cell, there is no cell wall. So protoplast is the structure that is found inside the cell membrane. Okay, right. Then these colongyma cells, they are thick, primary, non-lignified walls. Okay, so that is lignin is a organic substance which is found in parenchyma and sclerenchyma, but it is absent in colongyma. So that's why we call it as non-lignified walls. Okay, so especially cell walls of plant are made up of or composed of lignin. Here lignin is absent, so that's why we call it as non-lignified walls. And the main function of colongyma is mechanical support for growing organs which include root, stem and leaf, even branches. So this colongyma gives mechanical support. Okay, so these are the points about colongyma. Now we'll move to the next topic, sclerenchyma. So sclerenchyma, they are thick walled but often lignified. Okay, so parenchyma lignified, colongyma non-lignified, and sclerenchyma, they are also lignified and they are thick walled and they are dead cells. Before, just now I said when I was teaching parenchyma, colongyma, I said they are living cells, but sclerenchyma is dead cell. They don't possess living protoplasts at maturity. Once the cells become maturity, they don't have protoplast. That's why we call it as dead. Okay. There are two types of sclerenchyma. One is fiber and sclerites. So this you will learn in xylem and phloem tissues, because these cells only become complex tissues, as I said before. So in xylem you come across xylem fiber. So like that, even in phloem you come across phloem fiber. So we'll learn about that later. So here sclerenchyma composed of two types, fibers and sclerites. Fibers, first we learn about fibers. They are elongated, usually pointed ends, that is narrow tapering end. So that's what you call as pointed ends, and abundantly found in many plants. Fibers, that is when you learn nutrition you use this word fiber. Okay, roughage. Okay, that is instead of fiber, there we use the word roughage, which is the main property found only in plants. You don't come fibers or you don't have a roughage in animals. I mean, I'm talking about in the point of nutrition. Okay, so this fibers is none other than the sclerenchyma cells, okay, which are abundantly found in many plants. In Tamil they call it as narsathu, okay, which is found in more in green leafy vegetables like key rice, okay, and other vegetables, and absent in flesh or egg or milk or meat. Okay, fibers are absent, roughage is absent, and that is sclerenchyma. Okay, the average length of this sclerenchyma is about 1 to 3 millimeters. This is normal. Okay, but in some plants like flax, hemp and jute, it is very long, extensively longer. The fibers are extensively longer, almost 20 millimeter to 550 millimeter, which means that is one cell extends to that much extent. Okay, so that much long, that much lengthier. Okay, so the scientific name of flax is Linum usitatissimum. The scientific name of hemp is Cannabis sativa, and the scientific name of jute is Corchorus capsularis. Okay, so in these plants the fibers, that is the sclerenchyma fibers, are very long. Okay, then with regard to sclerites, they are widely distributed in plant body, that is which is found in many parts of the plant body, usually broad, I hope you know what is meant by broad. Okay, and may occur either in single or in groups, and their structure is isodiametric. That is, when you take the diameter of these cells, it will be equal or same. That is the meaning of isodiametric. Pits are prominent. So in the external structure of these cells, you come across small holes or ups and downs. So that's what we call it as pits. So these are found in the sclerite cells. Then lumen, that is the inner structure. That is, if you take hollow tubular cells, so already we are learning that sclerenchyma, they are elongated. Okay, so in those cases, so they look like a hollow tubular structure. So in the space inside these tubular structures, in biology we use the word lumen. So this lumen is filled with wall materials. Okay, then sclerites, they are common in fruits and seeds. They are mainly common in fruits and seeds. Then, so I just want to give idea about this flax, hemp and jute. So all these three are, you might have learned in 6th standard, all these three are natural plant fibers. Okay, so maybe in 6th standard you have learned about natural plant fibers. In 7th standard you might have learned about natural animal fibers, and in 8th standard you might have learned about synthetic or artificial fibers. So natural plant fibers, which include jute, flax and hemp. Natural animal fibers, which includes cotton, wool and silk. Wool and silk. Cotton is a plant. Okay, so you might have learned you should have learned cotton in 6th standard. So natural animal fibers, wool and silk. And 9th standard you have learned various different types of synthetic fibers like linen, rayon, PVC, polyvinyl chloride. So like that, you have learned many different types of synthetic fibers. So just recall those. So now we are learning, I'm just giving examples of natural plant fiber. Okay, so this is flax. So on the left hand side where you come across the crop, above you come across the picture of flax flowers, blue color flowers, and in the center you have this flax seed. Right, so this is just to have an idea. Okay, flax. Then second, hemp, cannabis sativa. The plant will be like this only, from which we take the fiber, hemp fiber. Okay, cannabis sativa. And jute, Corchorus capsularis. So the plant will be like this. Okay, jute and hemp, they are called as sanal in Tamil. And flax seeds, they are called as ali vidaigal. Okay, which is good for our health. Which maintains blood pressure, which enhances good cholesterol in your body, and which is nutritious. Okay, so flax seeds. Okay, then jute and hemp, which are not edible, but from which fibers are produced.